Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so grabbed my money, now I'm headed over to the bank, also known as the police station, and put everything in there, and then probably head right back over here and pick up the rest of the stuff. All I did was buy the oatmeal, that was it. I had plenty other perishables to buy, but it's like, why would I purchase that now? if I'm gonna just come back here anyway. And for me, it's like, why would I buy oatmeal? Well, it puts a little weight in my backpack. It makes for a more exercise experience. That's really the logic, and that's one of the things that I can't afford to not have tomorrow. Everything else, if I decide not to make that second trip, can be put off till tomorrow. So that's the logic. But yeah, man, I think I probably will make that trip on the way back. I don't think there's anything keeping me from doing so. But yeah, man, I feel pretty good. Energy's not very high right now, but I'm happy to be out. I'm definitely happy to be moving around. I think my energy will be better as I continue to walk, get this exercise in. It's warming up some, a little more than I thought it would for this type of wool shirt. I thought it would be a little colder, but it's okay, you know. I think at the end of the day, I want to prepare myself for it being windy and cold, and maybe even if it rains, you know. But I don't see any rain clouds. It looks like it's gonna be warming up from here, so that's a good thing. But yeah, man, I, like a lot of Americans, are just exhausted with what I'm seeing. I'm exhausted, you know. It's nothing new for me, obviously. Y'all follow my channel, you know exactly how I feel about a lot of different things, but you just get exhausted understanding that your country is completely and utterly taken over by literally evil people. Unapologetically evil people who are not willing to tell the truth about any of what it is that they're up to. A literal war with the truth, because it's more so spiritual than driven by anything else. And the spiritual DNA of what it is that who they serve is deceiver. And see, that's what I've come to really absorb and understand. The lying is not as much about getting away with what they're doing, but more so sticking to the script of what it is they believe in. That's the truth. And the devil is at war with the truth, and these are religious extremists who serve the devil. So they feel like they're basically disrespecting who they serve by being honest. And when you look at it that way, when you really zero in on that point, it's very easy to not expect to be able to reason with them. It's very easy to understand why they go through lots of hoops to keep from having to be honest. In the movies, a lot of times the bad guy is unapologetic. We're going through and we're destroying them. And then, like, in real life, the evil people are very much aligned with the deceiver, spiritual deceiver. That of whom is at war with the truth. That of whom moves in the direction away from what is honest. In that space, dealing with that entity, you can expect that those who follow that are always going to lie. They're never going to be honest. Even when it makes sense to be honest, even when they can gain a whole lot of stripes from being honest and unapologetic and bold, they will choose to lie, because that is ultimately what they feel is going to honor that for whom they serve. It's a wickedness, man. And I tell people, like, it's okay to be frustrated with that, but don't lose sight of what it is that we're talking about here, and who they serve and why they do what they do, why they target kids, why they always lie, why they always manipulate. You know, it's a pattern that is spiritually based. It's not anything other than just a spiritual intention that they have to follow the script of the enemy. And so this is why they choose to infiltrate themselves into our government. You know what I mean? This is why, because they want to use us to fight wars that they know they can't win. The understanding that I have about the enemy is this: he's always going to have people moving in the way that he wants them to move. that usually leads to their own failure. It usually leads to their own failure. He doesn't ever want to move in a direction that brings about any reason that hope can be found thereafter, because the intention is to deny God what makes him happy, which is the flourishing of the people he's created. He wants you to be happy. He wants you to be at peace. He wants you to have enjoyment. He wants you to have laughter. The enemy is at war with those things as well as the truth. And because he's at war with those things, whoever's working for the enemy, who's ever doing his bidding, they are bound to be betrayed. They are bound to be turned on. They are bound to be thrown under the bus. It's staying true to the DNA of the devil. He is against all things that make God happy. And God wants people to be happy. God wants people to be at peace. God wants people to find, themselves in positions of paradise. That good energy. He wants heaven for your spirit. The enemy wants God to be unhappy. So when you understand what you're dealing with from a spiritual perspective, you understand that the rules are slightly different than what you were used to dealing with secular individuals, with people who've lost their way but aren't just completely pure evil. People who are dedicating themselves to aligning with a spiritual connection to the enemy of God are going to always move in a certain way that's unique to their own rules of what it is that they do and they follow. It's not just people who are scorned or people who are mistaken or people who are just, secular in nature. It can go a lot of different ways. When it comes to people who are true to the devil's intentions, they're going to move a certain way, a specific way. And that is what it ultimately you're seeing with the Zionists. Specifically moving with purpose to do the bidding of the Lord's enemy, who relishes in the betrayal of those who follow him, as well as the destruction of those who don't. It's a destruction of all. It's a deception of all. And it's at war with the truth. So they'll lie for no reason. No reason at all. And so these are the people this is what powers the people who control your government. This is the entity behind you. Very spiritually driven. Very much aligned with a certain pattern of behavior based on its devotion to something it believes is greater than itself. It believes is its God. It believes has chosen it for the purpose of doing its bidding. And it will lie. And it will do things just to see people unhappy. It'll do things just to humiliate you. You understand why they do that now, if you didn't already. Why they go through so much trouble to humiliate people? Why are they going through so much trouble to hurt innocents? Why are they going through so much trouble to deceive people? Why do they target children? It's because they're trying to hurt God. Literally. Why do they make it a point to go against all of the commandments? Why are they trying to coerce people into breaking commandments, breaking sin boundaries? Why it seems like they're trying to coerce people into spaces that make them worse? It's because they are following a certain spiritual pattern that's specific to those who truly, truly serve the enemy of God. They are bound to that. They are committed to that. And admitting that would betray it entirely. That's the point. I saw something this morning say, well, why are they lying when we know they're lying? They know we know they're lying. They know they're lying, but they still keep lying. And this is why. This is exactly why. It's no different than following a pattern of agreements within any situation or cult or structure. If we only wear blue, we only wear blue in our gang. You know what I mean? If we only wear red, we only wear red in our gang. That's kind of how that is for them. Lying is equivalent to wearing blue if you're a Crip. They dare not tell the truth. Betray everything they're doing. Betray everything they stand for. That's what they're doing. That's what they've shown me. That's what I've come to understand about them. This is devilishness. This is Satanism. This is religious extremism. That's exactly what it is. And so that's why I would say to a guy like Tucker Carlson, he had this interview in Israel. I would tell him, from a spiritual perspective, you put your life at risk, bro. Being an enemy of them, looking to expose what they do to people of whom they're trying to deceive, you put your life at risk. And he said that they detained him, and his producer and several other people who were with him got detained for a short time, and he felt like they were, in his words, being humiliating toward his producer, trying to get him to leave his guy behind and fly off without him. You know, these are psychological intentions that they have to treat their enemies in a humiliating way. They want to scare you. They wanted to probe you and make you feel uncomfortable as a means of serving the devil. Because it's not enough to just have you come there and do the bidding of whatever your intentions are and leave. They have to make you feel a certain way upon doing so. Make you wonder if you're actually going to be able to leave. Make you wonder if they're going to do horrible things to you. Does that really serve any real purpose? Yes. That answer is, it's serving the devil's purpose. He wants people to feel uncomfortable for no damn reason. He wants you to wonder if you're going to survive the situation. He wants to psychologically torment you so that you will walk away feeling something. Even if it serves no purpose that you feel that way, it gives him the understanding that he's done something that God didn't want him to do to somebody God loved a lot. That's what it is. That's why they have to throw on extra unnecessary humiliation and pain upon all their treatment of people. It's because they're trying to piss God off. That's why they stand behind religion and pretend to serve God while doing all the worst things, because they're trying to deceive. It's going to be a long time, I believe, before people really understand this, what it is I just described to you. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of studies that are going to reveal what it is that I just said to be true about these specific people and the others that they align with who are adjacent to their intentions. But this is what it is. This is what they're at war with. The truth. The truth about them, the truth about their intentions, the truth about how well they expect to do in whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, the truth about whatever it is they're measuring, all of it. Anything that's true, they're against it. If it came out of their mouth, it's likely inaccurate. If it came out of their mouth, it's likely exaggerated. If it came out of their mouth, it's likely a lie. Some variation of one of the three of those, or all. They are not serving the devil properly, quote unquote, if they don't. You know, I heard something this morning. Godiva Goddess said on her platform, she was essentially saying that it's been tweeted out that there are Israeli rabbis in Israel who are saying that they need to get out from under Zionism because Zionism is a threat to them all. And her position on that was, you know, she's not buying because it's similar to something that I've said before on this channel. You know, a lot of times Jewish people have allowed Zionism to infiltrate into their situation, to their religion, and then from there take over so much of what it is the world is about, only to find themselves without a desire to be behind Zionism when the consequences of Zionism's behavior comes knocking on their door. You're fine when they're taking over the world in the name of your people, but once it starts becoming a problem for you, once you start taking on a backlash, suddenly you want them up out your way. Suddenly you want to ask for help. And she wasn't buying it. my position on that is as it is. I've already said that I think there are good Jewish people who that will align with, who feel that way and are intentional on saying, yo, I didn't know what was going on and I want out from under it now that I've become awakened to it. There are going to be a lot of people who, with what the Bdf Goddess said, will have been very comfortable with what Zionism has been about up until this point, when it seems like the tide has turned and now people are ready to go to war with Zionism. They're going to want to get up out of it. I will tell all of the people, both those on the good side of that conversation and those who are on the deceiver side of that conversation, it's going to be very difficult to see who's who at this point. Because the reality is, you let it go too far. You let it get too far. You let people see a whole genocide before you open your mouth. And because of that, now people are going to think it's very responsible to keep all of you out, to keep all of y'all in these positions, to not have any mercy when it comes to the consequences of what Zionism has done. You should have chosen to back away once you saw them doing things that ultimately you didn't have the stomach for. You should have told everybody, hey, this is what's going on, to try to save some of us from what it is that they were doing to all of us, what their intentions were. You only are interested in saving yourselves, and you want to claim that you didn't even know what was going on. And that, the risk of that being what it could be, makes it responsible for everybody to keep you up out of the situation, to not allow for you to have that mercy. Because we can't afford to, when we get rid of Zionism, then have secret societies of Zionists who are able to sneak through the cracks and then teach. And then Zionism reemerges 75 years down the road after we done got rid of them, because we let you guys slide, thinking you were honest about not knowing and not being a part of that despite being Jewish. It becomes a situation where it's not wise for humanity, when it purges itself of this evil, to allow those who may have been cool with it up to a point to continue. It's a dangerous world for you Zionists. It's a dangerous world for you Jews. It really is. Because you let it get too damn far. And you let it get too far. And let me tell you, this American psyche, the common 2026 American person, they're not enraged like they're going to be enraged. Not yet. A lot of them still in their little I love me bubble. Everything they've ever known is still upright. There's no rubble around us. You know what I mean? We're able to see all the different things that we once loved and knew. See people. There's no bodies in the street. We don't smell the stench of destruction in our midst at all. If the consequences of Zionism lead to those realities, the support for capital punishment upon you will be very, very strong. People who are renegades, running around looking for you, that will be a thing. And this is something I was meditating on this morning as I was praying to God. Before, I think it was even before I saw Bdf Goddess's post, I was thinking, when Americans are snapped out of their comfort zone on the massive scale that could be possible for the consequence of the choices of this administration and others who may serve thereafter in the name of Zionism, if we end up having our country destroyed like what's going on in Gaza, you're going to see a different extremism than what you've known in regards to this country. A very different extremism, man. For the survivors of that, there's going to be a very different extremism. Because of this America that the Zionists know are a very well-behaved and happy soul. got our capitalism, we got our money, we get to do whatever we want to do, we got our devices, we're walking around comfortably. Like I said, the stench of death is not in the air in this place. We know a certain level of destruction for which we are very uncomfortable with, but it ain't nowhere near the level of destruction that we could know if the Zionist consequences come our way, if the Zionist intention comes our way. And all of the Jewish people who are comfortable in this land, it's going to change for you very, very fast if that comfort zone is destroyed. And you ain't got nothing but these people who are going to be uprooted from that comfort, uprooted from that, cloud that a lot of us have been on. Believe me when I tell you, it's going to get weird for y'all. Because like I said yesterday in a different analogy, you're going to start seeing them wolves come out of them houses. Them people that y'all afraid of, you're going to start seeing them come out of them neighborhoods. And you know who they're going to be looking for? They're going to be looking for you. They're going to be looking for you. All them people you've been trying to keep confined in these neighborhoods with drugs and alcohol and ignorance. And as long as you don't go to them neighborhoods, you don't never have to deal with them people, but you don't want to deal with those people. Those are the people that are going to come venturing out of them zones. If all this quote-unquote society disappears, then people are going to be some of the only people left. And believe me, they're going to be coming out and they're going to be looking to enact that upon those who their enemies are. Just like they enact what they do against their enemies in these inner cities who look like them, when they understand who did what to them, when that becomes common knowledge amongst those people, they're going to be coming out. They're going to go in them damn prisons and they're going to start letting people out. And y'all gonna have to deal with that. I'm telling you, y'all have to deal with that. Y'all live in fantasy land, just like we do, just like America does, so too Zionism. They live in fantasy land. They really live in a fantasy land where things are psychological. Oh, we could say these words and get this result. No, you ain't gonna be able to say nothing. In the world that you're creating for yourselves, it ain't gonna be you talking. It's going to be on site. As soon as they see a yarmulke, they're knocking the head off of whoever wearing it. The real anti-Semitism. See, y'all, the narrative that y'all have about anti-Semitism is that people hate you, and then you have to worry about them coming after you, so you have to ward it off. If people actually hate you the way that you describe us hating you in this anti-Semitism narrative, if people really hated you like that, it wouldn't be no... We're sitting in our homes and we're trying to figure out how to combat it. No, people are coming after you. You gotta run. It's running time. That's why that word is so full of shit, because it's like if these people really hated you, you would be in trouble in a different kind of way. You'd be running for your life. You'd have to leave this place. You wouldn't be able to walk the streets of New York and Hollywood and all this shit. You wouldn't be able to. And that's the disconnect, because a lot of people who are having these conversations are in such a fantasy land based on the stability of the country we're in and the stability of other Western world countries, that they think things are going to stay the same even if they muck it up. It's not. It's not. That's why I think it's rather ambitious but kind of naive that they think that they can turn Gaza into a resort after what we've all seen. Maybe we're all dystopian enough that they can pull it off, but I can tell you that place is going to be under attack, probably more so than any other paradise region has ever seen. You're going to have so many people wanting to get there and blow stuff up, get there and hurt people, get there and tear stuff up. You're going to have more attacks on New Gaza than you've had at any Western civilization known to man. It's going to be the most dangerous place to try to have a paradise in the world. Because everybody hates y'all. In 2023, between 2023 and this moment, y'all allowed everybody to know what y'all really up to. And the veil has been removed from all of our eyes in regards to your intentions, what you've been doing for a very long time, and you think you're going to move forward in the same world that you've been in, where you control everything and can still move about as if everything's fine. That is absolute delusion. That is delusional. That is naive and delusional, and it facilitates your failure as your devil would intend. He has deceived you into thinking that you have different consequences from the behaviors that you're initiating on his behalf. He is going to watch y'all go through the worst of it all. Sadly mistaken you are. Your naivete and your inability to fathom the realities of the behaviors that will be coming at you is what's going to facilitate your destiny to the failure that you deserve for this slaughtering of these people that you've been doing, for the deception of all these good people that you've been deceiving. There's a failure that you're due, and it's coming, and this is how. You measuring things improperly, you trusting that certain things have worked better than they have, you thinking you understand people that you don't really understand, thinking you can fathom the consequences of certain things and the violence of certain things when you actually do not properly. Thinking you can hide behind nuclear weapons and thinking you can control governments by way of sex secrets. These things are not as foolproof as you believe them to be. Not as foolproof as you need them to be in order to be successful in what it is you're trying to accomplish. And the wisdom behind it all is that you should never try to war with God, because you're not going to win. That's the wisdom. All of this is powering your desire to align with something that's at war with God. You are mortal. You are going to fail in your war with God. You are going to fail. There's no winning that. That you would even be as bold and as ridiculous as to do so, of course it's going to facilitate your failure. That's what all the rest of us understand. That's what the goy get. We don't want to war with God. We understand our limitations. We need God's love and support for us to facilitate a happiness to ourselves and to our children. We don't want to be at war with that for which controls everything as a futile intention. A foolish, futile intention that's going to give us failure 100% of the time. But you, set of individuals, have aligned with that for which is going to lose. And this is how your losses are facilitated. This is how it happens. This is how it happens. Many a man has been in a gunfight thinking that he had the upper hand, his gun jam in his hand. Many a man. And is shot down. That is the essence of the fate of the Zionist Jew. I'm telling you, that's what's coming for you. That's your destiny. Your gun is going to jam. Figuratively, it is going to jam. A lot of what you need to work, it ain't going to work when you need it to. It may work up until that point. Up until that point, every moment leading up to that point, your gun is going to serve you right. But when you need it the most, it's going to jam in your hand to facilitate the failure you deserve. You're going to find out. It's spiritual. You cannot engage in the things that you have been engaging in and expect that the Lord is going to deliver you success. You cannot. Serving his enemy will serve you not. And that's exactly what they're doing, man. That's exactly what they're doing. They're betraying themselves spiritually. And never gave themselves a chance. And they never did. And may this be a lesson when you see what happens to these people and how it plays out, however long it takes. I don't think it's going to be overnight. But when it plays out the way it plays out, let that be a lesson to all future generations. You do not want to war with God. If you have a problem with God, take it up with God, communicate with God, make it right. I've cussed at God many a times. Told him I was angry, told him I didn't care, I told him this. I didn't warred with God. I've been on the wrong side of God for reasons that made sense to me. I have. But when I walked away, I was at peace. I didn't walk away thinking, I'm going to come back, spin the block on him. You can't win that war. It's useless. You can have all the courage and all the strategy. You're still going to lose, man. He's in control of the whole thing. This is the problem with the devil himself. He was an angel who thought he could turn on God and is committed to that failure because he hates himself. It is that loathing for self that drives him, not his hatred for anyone else, not his hatred for God. It's his loathing for self and his desire to see his own failure and facilitate his own bad reputation. That's what drives the enemy of God. Not the God himself or the hatred for God. No, it's a hatred for himself. And so if you serve him, he wants you to hate him. If you serve him, he wants to anger God in the facilitation of God's unhappiness through your failure for whom God loves. You never give yourself a chance. That's the point. But if you don't understand these things, then of course you could slip into the deception of believing that what he's shining in your face, that he's trying to lure you in with, is going to provide you some chance against God. You're not going to have a chance. Only a foolish man at war with God. Unfortunately, there are a lot of foolish men. And their intention is to try to deceive those who don't believe in God into doing the bidding that facilitates their collective failure. Collective failure. They use people who have no spiritual understanding, who have no spiritual substance, who have no sense of anything other than money and time or power and desires of the flesh. They want to deceive them into believing that there is nothing but what it is that they want and a pursuit of it. To facilitate a war with a living God that he absolutely knows exists. That's why I tell y'all, atheists, y'all are vessels of the devil by default because you have no connection to a living God, which can provide you a timing and an alignment that'll have it so that your luck will have you stumbling away from the devil's intentions. Luck is his facilitation of blessings. You pursuing the things this world teaches you by default will have you on the odd end of those blessings, of that timing, of that alignment. This is what is there to see. That's why it's important for a lot of us to make peace with something being greater than ourselves, because those who are in control of what it is that we see and those who are in control of what happens to us believe in God. That he exists. That either they're at war with him or they're devoted to him. But they do believe he exists. They do understand of his existence. They understand that he exists, is what I mean by that. To better word it, they understand that he exists. They are clear on him being out there. They don't believe that there's nothing or that it's only science. They don't believe that. They need you to believe that so they can put you on the chessboard properly in a position to sacrifice yourself on behalf of that futile war that they're about to lose. Just so that with whom they serve can fulfill his intention of punishing himself and God at the same time. That is what it is. They want to break God's heart out of jealousy. He hates himself because it will hurt God to see him fail, just like it will hurt God to see any of God's people fail, any of God's creations fail. That's why he hates himself so much, because he knows God loves him. You see how that cycle is really wicked and really twisted? And you wonder why the devil hates himself so much? Because God loves him. That's what powers him to hate himself so much. These are spiritual understandings that a lot of people move without. And as a result, they end up walking into the devil's traps. They end up trusting some variation of bad energy, or thinking it's going to move in a direction that serves them somehow. No, you never give yourself a chance. You won't even get off the ground. That plane ain't even taking off. And so I tell you, man, like I said, I've been unhappy with God and I made it right. I told him everything I had to say in the most raw patterns. I said things to God that I wouldn't have said to anyone else. I cussed at God in a more harsh manner than I cussed at any human being I've ever known. And I made it right. I said what I had to say and I left it there. I don't like that you did this. I don't like that you did that. This is my limited understanding. I am unhappy. How you let this happen? Why you let that happen? Why does this even be possible? It's not that I don't believe you exist, because you've already proven yourself that you do exist. Why you let this happen? Why is this even part of the plan? Why does this even exist? Why is this fight even in place? Why are you torturing us with your intentions to save something that is loathed of itself and you and all of us? Why do you love him more than you love us to allow him to survive at the detriment of all us? These are conversations I've had with God. But what you also come to understand is that whatever his plan is, facilitates the purpose that he had for creating all this in the first place. He had a right first. And then came you and all your thoughts, all your wishes, all your hopes, and everything you ever known, loved, to hate it. It first came with his desire to see it so. He had a right first, and then he chose to facilitate whatever came after that. So though I may not be happy with God on this and happy with God on that I have a desire to be anything, let alone happy or sad, came from his desire for me to exist first. At the end of the day, it's his to do it with, whatever he chooses. Like, God, I'm so unhappy with all this suffering. All right. That really is a thing. But once I start letting once the Lord gives me the ability to make the world what I want it to be, eventually you start running into certain snags because there's a lack of understanding that comes from whatever it is that I'm desiring to see. And then will come the counsel of the Lord to help me figure out how to handle it. That's the understanding, that our limited understanding only provides us with so much of a vision. And if we had his understanding, we wouldn't have his vision. And most importantly, we wouldn't have our lack of faith that makes us so unhappy with the things that he puts in our visual. Certain things you just have to be okay with. Certain things you just have to ask strength for. Certain things you just gotta heal or let it burn, like Usher said. Certain things are in place so that other things can manifest. And that structure is not explained to everyone. For the same reason that those things are in place, because in explaining it to you changes certain variables that ultimately create other things that are not God's will. A divine trust will allow you to just live with God's will and ask for the tools from which to do so. That's the only solution to any unhappiness that you have with God. It's to trust God loves you enough to give you the tools and the strength to deal with it. Deal with it. Not run from it, not war with him to your own detriment, but to deal with the problem. Provide me support so that I can live with my bereavement. Provide me the tools so that I can overcome my addiction. Provide me the patience so I can deal with this antagonist in my life. Provide me the understanding so that I don't find myself unhappy in the presence of my confusion. You ask for tools accustomed for whatever it is you're dealing with. You express your feelings and then you ask for what you need to deal with it. Warring with him only creates more problems, and then furthermore, no path to the solution. You never get off the ground. It's okay to be unhappy with God. But once you start warring with him, you start running into more problems. There's no solution in that. There's no healing in that. You get no tools from that. You don't get his divine favor in that. And that divine favor will help you deal with whatever he's chosen for your life. A lot of us are unhappy with things that we think are coming. Lord, you let this happen, so now this is coming. And be mad and be driven off of the thought of what could be. Ironically enough, that's what drives a lot of the people who are at war with God. Not what has happened, but what they think is coming. What they think is coming. How they think they'll handle what they believe is coming. The promises of the enemy that certain things are to come. They let that drive their intentions to go to war with God. Let the devil whisper in their ear, this is what he gonna do. See, he left you like that. When if you just let God let things play out, it don't pan out that way. Most of the trouble that I ran into in my life usually came from some variation of anticipation and messing things up because of what I thought was coming. Usually when the worst things in my life took place, I usually had the strength to handle it very well. My mom passed away, my dad passed away. I had the strength. I didn't even hardly cry during all of that because I had a certain faith and a certain agreement with the Lord that I was going to get through it. Now, leading up to that point, it was the most fearful thing in my life to have lost my mother. You could have asked me when I was 17 years old what I thought about losing my mother. I said I want to die that night. I was certain I was going to kill myself. I told people in my life that the day my mom died, I'm jumping off the highest roof. But the night my mom passed away, I didn't even cry. It's because whatever you were anticipating was a lie. The reality was the Lord was going to provide you the tools. You just had to trust him to let it happen. A lot of what it is we prepare for in life will have us thinking the worst and doing the worst in preparation or anticipation of the worst. And the worst don't ever have to come. He's in control of it all. He's in control of it all. And don't underestimate the presence of God's mercy. Why you let them people suffer? How you know they suffered? Who's to say the Lord didn't snatch their soul right before any of that even happened? I'm not to say that I know that to be the case, nor do I actually lean into that being the case. But it's just the presence of what I know God is capable of doing. And a lot of us are reacting to what it is that we think is suffering to others instead of suffering that's coming our way when it may not actually be coming. But we can coerce ourselves to that suffering, or even worse suffering, by warring with God in the name of the potential suffering. This is the essence of not having faith and how it creates a manifestation of sin, a manifestation of war with God, a manifestation of being an abuser with others, to others, taking on substances that are going to torch our minds forever so that we are more likely to be out of control in these regards. Someone that you weren't supposed to be with at all broke your heart. Somebody that you had red flags about in regards to, and if you would have had a closeness with God, you would have seen them red flags for what they were. But you were aligning with the enemy, you were aligning with the flesh, and as a result, the consequences of that person coming into your life ultimately led to the heartbreak that you ended up going through. And then furthermore, you end up at war with God as if he didn't leave every bit of what tools were needed. You just left those tools instead of picking them up. You didn't pick up the tools that he left there for you. You didn't pick up the clues that he left there for you. And then when it all goes to crap, you're blaming him. That's one of the conundrums of being a mortal human being. We tend to do that type of stuff. Be mad at God for stuff that he told us not to go toward. He left intentions that would, if followed, coerce you away from those circumstances. You chose not to go down those paths, or chose to go down the paths that you shouldn't have. And as a result, you got what came with it. Now you're mad. And compound that nonsense with more of the same. It's not deeper than that for a lot of people. We just got to understand, you got to have a relationship with God, connection with God, so that he can help coerce you away from that for which makes you unhappy. Because just like the devil wants to see you fail on behalf of God's hatred, or God's love rather, for you, so too does God have love for you and want the very opposite for you. When you're at war with God, you're at war with yourself. The only conscious being at war with God is someone who loathes himself with a strong passion. If you want happiness, if you want success, if you want things not to be a failure, then you need to lean into God, not away from it. But we teach one another the opposite, and we get what comes with that. When you love yourself, you need to understand what I'm saying to be true, man. I mean, the sooner you start incorporating that understanding into your life, the sooner you can stop being a vessel of the enemy of God, who don't want nothing good for any damn body, least of all himself. You're loved by God, man. You're worthy of the love of God. He has a strong passion for seeing all of us pick up the tools left in place for us to deal with the circumstances that either he creates for us or that we create for ourselves through our mistakes. He has a strong passion to see us succeed, just like his enemies has a strong passion to see us fail. And these words are the truth that the enemy and the people of the enemy are at war with. The only reason why he doesn't want you to do this or that is because doing this or that brings about your failure and failure for others, of whom he loves us all equally. If he chose you for something, he has a purpose for you that he wants you to fulfill. It's not to exalt you. He has a passion for everyone being successful. He has a passion for everybody being able to fulfill his intentions upon their lives, however long that's supposed to be. He has intentions of healing everybody of their pain, especially those who deserve it. He has intentions of snatching you off of this earth at some point. Nobody is immortal. Everybody is going to die. All of these things centered in your understanding will make it so that you will find the questions that properly align with the tools necessary to deal with whatever you have in your path. Whatever you have on your path. And those who war with God are very much mistaken, man. Those who choose the enemy of God and call him God are very much mistaken. They're messed up in the game. They're not even getting off the ground. They're confused and lost and very much destined to not be found because they continue to compound their problems with more of what makes God unhappy, hoping to please that for who makes God unhappy for the sake of hating himself. And that's what I have to say, man. So a lot of y'all following the star, Zionists, these Huckabee types, if you don't understand what it is I said to be true, it will be exposed to you someday in the light. You can run from the truth, but the truth will catch up to you. I tell y'all right now, you can keep following these maniacs down whatever path they send you down, or some adjacent maniacs that may be somewhere else that we're not paying attention to, of whom we know exist. People who have these evil practices that only exalt those who want to hurt God. Believe me when I tell you, believe me. All of what it is that you run from will catch up to you. All of what it is that you hide will be exposed. All of what it is that you use in deception will be understood and explained. You can't run from the realities of God's love for all of us. Bdf 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.